exactly at 10:30. So yeah, settle in and let's get ready. Okay, good morning and welcome to the third edition of the NAMSA Masterclasses powered by Accenture. We welcome you all to the first of three. This one will have a special focus on emerging NEV technologies. And as per the usual, for a masterclass to be a masterclass, we have to get someone who's an expert on the subject, tell us and give us a case study that we could learn from. And today we get to reflect on the adoption and the EV journey that China has taken from an expert that's working in that environment. And I'm hoping that as we go through this particular experience, we get to build more tools into our toolkit, or we put more arrows into our quiver as we settle and as we crusade for this transition that we are all supporting for new energy vehicles. In this particular session, we'll also have a panel discussion of experts who will then also tackle the question. Today, we get to put to the spotlight the question of whether or not is it adoption before industrialization? Can the two coexist? Which one do we prioritize? Which pathway works for South Africa? So the conversations themselves will be deep in the panel discussion that will follow. We've got great experts that will then also feed into the conversation. But before we get into the conversation, there are pleasantries that we need to get out of the way. On call, we do have Mr. Greg Kress, who's the head of Auto at he's the principal director of Automotive and e-mobility at Accenture Africa. And he will then do a lot of facilitation for the conversation today. But let's allow him to also give a word from the sponsor before we get into the conversations. Greg?
Thank you, Shetle. And I'm glad you call it pleasantries and a word from the sponsors. Thank you so much for the collaboration again. So firstly, a very warm welcome to the distinguished audience that are now joining and taking the time to join this session this morning. We really do hope that it will be worth your while and that you will learn a few new things to consider going away from here. So just a quick intro. My name's Greg Kress and I'm a Principal Director here at Accenture South Africa, and I lead our automotive and e-mobility industry practice. Maybe a quick introduction to Accenture for those that maybe haven't met us before. We're a leading global professional services company that helps organizations reinvent and transform their businesses through strategy, consulting, technology, operations, and digital engineering. And we have about 770,000 people serving clients across the world, across multiple industries. In South Africa, though, we really do combine these global capabilities with local industry knowledge and delivery expertise. We work across also the automotive value chain to help OEMs, suppliers, dealers, and mobility providers to modernize their operations, to build smarter manufacturing ecosystems, and we also enhance customer experiences through Accenture Song and accelerate the transition to software-defined vehicles, connected and electrified mobility. So today's topic, NEV technologies, lessons from China, really couldn't be better timed. The Chinese lesson is not simply that a large market can sell many electric vehicles. Rather, it is that NEV competitiveness emerges when technology, manufacturing, infrastructure, capital, talent, and policy all operate as a connected system, with speed treated as a strategic capability. So for South Africa today, we're going to learn that the most useful question is not just how do we replicate China? Rather, it'll be which elements of China's NEV advantage can South Africa adapt to its own industrial base, its own energy systems, its own consumer economics, and the regional opportunity that comes from that. So with that, we're going to have a great lineup. We've got a speaker. I'm very excited to announce my colleague and guest, Ming Chen, who's a managing director at Accenture Greater China. And we also have great panelists that are going to follow the content section, and we're going to unpack really what the lessons we're going to see from China, what those are, and how we can apply them to South Africa. So Ming Chen is our industrials and automotive industry group and supply chain and engineering lead. He has 26 years of experience across management consulting, strategy, digital transformation, mobility, IoT, and technology-enabled business reinvention. He advises and leads large-scale transformation programs for clients across industrial, automotive, and technology-intensive sectors in China. He's passionate about translating emerging technologies into practical business value, whether through AI-led enterprise transformation, intelligent supply chains, smart manufacturing, connected mobility, digital platforms, or new business models. So with that, really excited to introduce Ming Chen, and I'd like to hand over to you now.
Thank you, Greg. That's a very, very detailed introduction. Okay, so let me share my screen. Let me see. Can you see my screen right now?
Yes, we can, Ming Chen. Go for it.
Oh, okay. So good morning, everyone. It's my privilege to join you from China. And today, I'm not just want to give you a presentation talking about how China is success, right? Because it's for sure there will be something to learn by South Africa from China, but every market has its own history, specialization, kind of the social priority, industry structures, right? So instead, I want to use China as a living laboratory. So I want to really bring in your consideration and thinking about the question is, which mechanism, what I'm going to share today, helping China accelerate, and which of those mechanisms can South Africa to adapt to its own national ambition of the industrialization? Okay, and the timing is also important because the automotive industry today is no longer changing itself along one dimension. Electrification, software, artificial intelligence, new manufacturing technologies, battery, energy system, and the new mobility services, they are converging each other together. And this convergence changes is really brings the value, right? And everyone today, actually, you can pick up something to enter this industry and see one piece of the products can be developed very quickly by learning from leading country, by leveraging AI technology, and really also need to consider how the work we're going to do able to make our relevant to our global value chain, right? So my message today at the beginning will be very simple. The China advantage is not really just about one technology or one company or one government policy. It's a kind of the operating system. And I want to really to cover that and covering the industry policy, market demands, supply chain readiness, and also the entrepreneurship of the peoples and the engineer talents and the digital infrastructure. Okay. And I will going to cover, let me go to, yeah. And I will going to cover three topics. First one is really the structural reset of China automotive market. And the second is why China become a global peace setter in a software-defined and intelligence kind of the vehicle domains. All right. The third one is really the advantage stack behind those kind of performance. What does that mean for South Africa's own development plan? So that will be my today's three agendas. Okay. And let's look at the first one. Okay. So the China automotive today, actually, they demonstrate very fantastic numbers in the global market. They represent almost 10% of China national GDP. Okay. And we are contributing almost 30% of the global lighting vehicle sales. And among that, we actually occupy 50% of the e-vehicle sales, right? And we representing 70% of global EV productions. But those numbers today are very great, but keeping one thing in mind, China start to manufacturing the first passenger vehicle type of the products. That's only about 40 years ago. That actually was first is led by the joint venture between Volkswagen and Shanghai Auto Group. And the year which China joined the WTO, which is 25 years ago. At that time, in China market, the global OEM brands almost occupy 95% of the passenger vehicle sales at that time. Okay. The deep story is really the structure change in the composition of the market. The old growth model basically is dominated by the ICE has been changed dramatically. By last year, you can see from the figure, the domestic ICE sales actually fall from almost 94% from 2017, and they dropped to 40%. And domestic the NEV sales actually grows up to 40%, and the export vehicle volume grows 20%. They become the new engines, right, to boom up this kind of the significant kind of the growth. Okay, the most recent data in this year also make this reset more clear. I just collect some kind of the latest data for you. For the first 7 months of the 2026, the add up the new energy vehicle share in the market for new car sales exceed 50% for the first time. And you can assume all those NEV sales came from the local brand from China. And in the meantime, the export of the amount of the China vehicle also accelerating. Okay, and China actually exports almost 500,000 of the vehicle, NEV vehicles in July, just 1 month, right? That's almost 150% compared to last year. Okay, so this is kind of the number we're seeing today. And there's also tension today, if you read the news, right? Beneath those kind of headline numbers, the internal analysis of China first half of this year show a very divergence between the weak domestic retail demands and a much more strong kind of exports. And this also means there are intensive kind of competition in the home country, but this also increased the urgency for the China brand to go overseas for overseas expansions. Okay, so this is a first figure I want to share with you, and the second figure in China market, the competitor is not only came from the traditional players, and China today has 3 border groups. Traditional OEM, they are still kind of remain dominant regarding the sales and production volume, and but the EDD stop like NIO, like Xiaopen, they set up themselves almost about 8 or 9 years ago, and today they become a very competitive kind of the products and also the pricing in the market. Okay, this is a new way. There are also a new wave of new technology players like the Huawei, like Xiaomi. I believe you heard about Huawei, Xiaomi. Huawei is and Xiaomi both famous for their phone brands, right? They brought in their own kind of the advantage regarding the consumer electronics, regarding software, regarding chipset, regarding operating system, regarding data, brand, and also most important, regarding the value they bring into the consumer on the customer values. The insight from this page is really the new competitor, they bring in the compression of time. The EV stop on the third layer for NIO and Xiaopen, they actually took almost 7 or 8 years to reach 60% of the market share. While for those kind of new technology entry for the Huawei and Xiaomi, they reach to the same percentage of the market share just around 4 years, half of the new players, right? And the barrier of entry is not really disappear. Automotive is still really capital incentive and also the kind of the highly regulated by the government. Okay, but the source of the advantage has been changed because of those kind of new players coming in. The companies can enter with a digital ecosystem and maybe a strong customer brands, or end of the day, maybe a very kind of the leading AI stacks of technology, they can able to come into this marketplace and be the partner for the rest of the ecosystem. And they're able to come out with the final products very quickly. So beginning of this year, you also see the Dreamer. They was produce kind of the so-called robot cleaning machines for the house. They also announced to enter into the car market, and they are heavily leverage the ecosystem, which able to help them to success, right? So this will be a critical kind of the a lesson for the developing market is really the future automotive industry may not always require every participant. You need to come out with 100% of the coverage for all the components and for all the suppliers, like the 20th century's OEM, like the Ford, like the General Motors, right? And the contract firms can enter into this market. You can be focused on the battery, on the charging, on the software, on the fleet governances, and on the data platforms. Okay, and so this is how we're going to look into maybe South Africa for you to look into this NEV market and how you able to pretty well in certain domain, and you can leverage the ecosystem to bring you into this market into more faster way. Okay, and the third part is really on the globalization. China OEM, they are moving from a pure product export model actually into a kind of the end skill and enable model, and even more often, for example, to encourage for them to do the partnership. If you look into here, we will see someone like the Leap Motor, right? They are partnered very closely with the Stellantis. They almost leverage Stellantis kind of the manufacturing capability in the Europe, and they're providing the technology, and they're leveraging the distribution channel for the Stellantis in Europe, and they're selling quite well in the Europe at this today. Another good example maybe is listed here is the Xiaopeng. Xiaopeng, for they are really partner closely with the Volkswagen. They eventually become the Volkswagen's key techno stack for China market, and they helping the Volkswagen to release a new car based on the Xiaopeng's architecture just within 18 months. Just for references, for traditional OEM, usually they will take 50 to 60 months to release a new car, right? And today, Volkswagen is trying to work out how they can resell Xiaopeng's new car model into the Europe market, because for the technology experiences, Xiaopeng brings a more advances in terms of technology and experiences regarding car models. So for South Africa, the key question is really not only how many vehicles is going to be imported from outside of the country, but it's really what kind of capability you are able to build locally, but in combination with the outside country stresses, and make the market really changes and shift for the local market. And so now I'm going to come to the second sections, right? So how the China has really become going to today's stages, right? Number one is really today China has become kind of the innovation centers. It's not only from manufacturing centers. The innovation strength analysis in the presentation is really we made assessment around hundreds of the serious innovation every year, and we actually today kind of attribute 46.5% of the global automotive innovation strength in almost 2 years back, right, is to China companies. If you look into the changing curves, actually at the very early stage from the 2016s, German and even US, they are taking the leadership. But today, multinational companies, they also put their innovations into China. They learn from the China regarding the market, regarding the ecosystem. They co-develop the innovation topics with China partners. And they today also transferring China solutions to the other market. Like the Ford in China, they are partnered with the GMC. They actually use the GMC the technology and export the Ford brand car into the Africa market, into the Australia market, Southeast Asia market. I think some of them may also enter into South America market as of today. Okay, so this is China is really become the leading of the innovation in automotive today, and this innovation with two very highly focused domains. Number one is on the intelligent cockpit, and today is almost come to 77 kind of the penetrations, right? Second is regarding the autonomous driving on the level 2 plus and also on the level 3s. Okay, and this one we already enter into 60% of the penetration for the new car sales in the market. So when we learn these two figures and also keep in mind some of the market specific driver to make this fast growth as well. For example, the welcomeness of the acceptance of the consumer in the market. For example, for the cockpit kind of the services, it's usually would demand some of the personalization data. And China market for its know, so our market is not regulated, very strict on the personal informations. And also the buyers, the consumers, they're willing to turn on those intelligence features to receive the user experiences rather than to keep his own data to be a kept environment, right? And the second, government plays a very important role in these places. And the government set up all the efforts to encourage adaptations over those kind of autonomous kind of the functions. So I think in later of this year, government is going to officially allow the level 3 autonomous driving vehicle to be on road. Okay, and the government also going to make official support on the level 4 robotaxi. They already launched into 330 plus cities in China market, and they are going to officially going to be the commercial operation by end of this year. So with the consumer to embrace and the government to really to encourage those kind of development, the speed is treating as the competitive capability. So China and the technology players, kind of the players, they run much more faster compared to the global players in the China market. And one of the very leading indication will be the OTA. You know, for the most famous, the Tesla brand, they usually do 2 to 3 times OTA in China market. But for China players, they almost going to do up to 10 to 12. Some of them even do much more crazy in 2 years ago, even forced government to release the regulation and asking to do the formal registration with OTA before you really can put it to the market. Okay, but OTA is very quick way to help the OEM to learn the consumer's feedback, to make your adjustment into a software code and release new experience to the market. So this is why China is leading on a software-defined vehicle. Okay, on top of that is really software become much more so-called importance to ship the way the OEM to deliver services to the market, and there will be lots of data has been collected because of new architectures, and it's also required the OEM is really to shift their capability to pure hardware development into kind of a digital, into the data, into the cloud services. Okay, and this also bring up kind of the a different ecosystem kind of a development. So this is how the China is leading in the software defined vehicles. Yeah. And China OEMs today is not only stopped at what they're doing today. Actually, they already have eyes on the next wave where they want to be. So the vehicle is only first step. And they are not only adopting the technology from the suppliers, they also try to do something to be more kind of the integrate and the leading by themselves. They are almost more than a China OEM invest in the proprietary automotive chip, one thing is to save the cost, right? Because it can produce the chip, the purchasing cost more than 70% by their own calculations, okay? And the second, they want to use these automotive chips is really to bring themselves into next level of the AI technologies. And with that, they also invest into robotic technology. And they demonstrated those already in back to April of this year on the Beijing Auto Show. And actually Shinny from the SM group already attended that as well. So I put a page in here in the Photoshop. They showcase the human robot, Iron, and also flying car. So they are not only limit themselves as just a car producer, they themselves is really, they want to be the intelligent product for the next wave of human societies. And one of the good cases is really show you kind of a motorcycle we call the Zhang Xue motorcycle, right? If you read the news, they actually win the 2 races in Portugal in the March of this year against established companies. And the product is really not to be created for a single isolated company like Zhang Xue. It's actually is draw on a very intensive and industrial basis from China market. So they only produce this design and produce these motor products within 2 years, you know, and now they actually become the so-called the leading product model for the speeding motorbike at this moment. So this is also based on the China able to provide the playground to integrating the R&D. You have very good ideas, and you're able to find the ecosystem from manufacturing basis, happy to really realize all the components, and you are able to really to integrate the e-drivers, the batteries, some kind of the industrial machines, and really to bring those kind of the so-called the leading design into the practice products in a very quick way. Okay, and China advantage, they have the 6 connect layers: supply chain and the cross-industrial technology ecosystem, the R&D focus, and also smart manufacturing, and also talents. So I will going to address one by one. And you see from this page, and we're talking about China today is leading the EV market, EV production capability. And one of the very big bases is 70% of global EV batteries are produced in China. Okay, and not only on the battery final products, all the materials required by the battery kind of a production is a majority from China as well. And for example, for the BYD, actually for BYD is a very interesting company. For the BYD, they are presented as a kind of the almost kind of the so-called highly kind of the integrator kind of the companies. They produce almost 75% components themselves, and they also supply that battery to other companies as well, right? So this kind of the world leading EV supply chain is really kind of the supporting the super cost competitive, and also able to supporting kind of the scale up capability. But the value bring in those kind of the vertical integration is not only about cost, but it's really, it's reduce the coordination kind of delay, because in the past, you need to give your requirement to your suppliers come back to you, how they're going to realize. But today, they really able to integrate those things very quickly. They also able to protect kind of the critical supplies, make the design trade-off very faster, and they are able to allow and support the so-called parallel engineering across battery, power electronics, and the thermal management system and the software vehicle system in a more effective way. And not only on the batteries, right? So we are also looking at the ecosystem. So the China technology ecosystem, they actually span from the OEM, battery companies, semiconductor companies, AI companies, cloud providers, smartphone manufacturing, autonomous driving specialist companies, robotic kind of the innovation entities. And they are converging them together. And Huawei actually play a very interesting role. They are not on the kind of tier 1, they are playing the tier 0.5. They are not only supplying one components, they're actually helping the OEM to integrate the software, electronic, AI, cloud, connectivity, and custom experiences. They even offer the sales channel to helping the OEM to distribute and branding their products in a more effective ways. And other examples also shows that movement may came from the both directions, right? The smartphone companies enter into the vehicle like the Xiaomi, like the Huawei. Also OEM, they develop chipset, and I think for the Neo, they also produce Neo phone as well. Okay, and also there will be some kind of the robotic company. They also enter into the autonomous driving. In the meantime, like the Xiaopen, the OEM company, they also enter into the robotic industry for next wave as well. So from South Africa, so the institution kind of lesson will be important. One automotive department play cannot be sitting just within the automotive sectors. It will need the structure participation from the energy, from the digital, from the telecom, from the cloud provider, from the government for the regulation incentive, from university. There will be some kind of leading study to provide to the industry to come out, even from the financial company, because they need to sponsor the development of the technology to be implemented in the products. If you look into the new energy players in the China market, for the NEO, for the Li Auto, for the Xiaopen, at the very first 5 years, the French company give a strong financial support for them to realize their dreams by hiring the top talent, by establishing the smart manufacturing capabilities, by realize those technology into products and put to the market. Okay. So one practical mechanism is really could be a national NEV or smart mobility mission, kind of with a small number of the outcome-based work streams to really look into the demand, kind of the energy and charging, to look into the industrial localization, user experience localization, to look into the software, to look into cybersecurity, and also how to bring up the talent on the local market. Yeah. And this deck is showing the sample of the Chinese OEM compared to global OEM. They actually input much more higher the R&D investment, and for almost 14% in a benchmark. Okay, it's allowing they are able to attract talents. They are able to accelerate the new product, the technology, to be realized into the real products. R&D intensity alone is not enough. What matters is really to convert the R&D strengths into products, into a software release, which is almost translating to how quickly you're going to push to the OTA, right? Into the pattern apply to protect yourself, and into the process improvement. And all those things actually, I mean, with R&D investment, they will translate lowering down the cost, which is time to market. In the meantime, bring the new revenues, increase your incomes. China advantage is really the short feedback loop between research, engineering, manufacturing, and with the customers. And for South Africa, we can try to look into those lessons, and we can try to find the way to binding the incentive to the capability outcome, which is something to considerable. Okay, and the aiming is really looking into how the public support is really can be translate the learning into the capability, but not only on the volumes. And smart manufacturing, and China today is hosting more than 40% of the lighthouse factory globally, and more than half of newly installed industrial robots is in China. According to the source summarizing this presentation, that the broad adaptation of the demand-driven planning, AI-enabled quality inspections, and the digital integrations and the intelligent product lines, they happen very quickly and highly in China at this moment. Today, Accenture in China, we're helping different customers to do all those 4 dimensions. Okay, smart manufacturing is not just be confused just buying robots. The value is really to connect processes and also the usable data. And robots automate at one task. As smart manufacturing, their links, demands, product designs, supply plans, applying and with the availability of the resources and quality inspections, and also the maintenance for your factory lines, and also the logics for the in-factory and outside factory. All those things are linked together to become a smart manufacturing capabilities. And for the South Africa, maybe a stage approach can be taken into consideration. First, to improve the data qualities on the equipment connectivities, right? And second, to really to improve the efficiency on the product planning. And the third one is really to build up digital twins among the select lines and product lines. And maybe fourth step is really how to deploy the AIs to bring to the factory environment and become more agent-driven over the factory kind of operations to bring in the efficiency and also bring in the new way of doing the industry businesses. And this one is one of the things maybe quite unique for China. And one figure is really 1 year in China from the university, we are releasing 3.5 million kind of the tech graduates in 1 year. If you're looking at more broader kind of graduates, the number is 12 million. And someone actually always ask me, we know China people working very hard. We're working almost, we call the 996, okay, that's the older wording, right? So 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., 6 days a week. Today we're talking about the 7-11, which is the 7 days a week. We're working from the 7 a.m. to the 11 p.m., okay, a week. So many people ask me whether China can sustain such kind of the high working load. My answer to them is, for the China population, we still foresee the graduates from the university every year will increase for next 6 to 7 years. Before that, China people still need to working very hard in order to gain their position in this market, right? Okay, but for South Africa, we're not talking about we need to create such big volume of the graduates, right? But we really need to look into what kind of the subject we should design and educate in the university, and what kind of future job market we want to create. Battery technology, high voltage system and safety specialists, power electronics, embedded software developers, cybersecurity professionals, user experiences for the local markets, data engineering. So those things are today is also in a shortage. Even we have 3.5 million graduates from the university, we're still in a shortage, right? And also for the new energy vehicle, after sales professionals, after market maintenance, those are rising challenge even in China market, and I believe those will be needed for South Africa as well if we want to develop this new energy vehicle business. Okay. So the China, one thing is really on the execution speed, and in China the speed representing you have something thinking Monday, you can get a pilot on physical products in Friday, but this is not meanings weaker kind of the standard or the regulation is more kind of the loose or careless. And in mobility, in energy, in AI safety, cybersecurity, all these things, speed also means a clear ownership because you need to bring different ecosystem players into together, right? It means parallel working together, collaborations. It means fewer hands-off time-bound decisions. We have been questioned and challenged by many of the global OEM players. So how really they can transform their R&D process to be more competitive compared to China players, right? And one answer or one advice I give to them is really, when we learn from China OEMs, they always with really time bounders. They say, I want to release a new car with technology by next year, April. Then every decisions, every collaborations, every hard workings is really tied into that time. And you will see they will commit that time to release a new car. And you will see that commitment also representing they are able to take in the leading position in the market and get the customer to buy for them. In China, the rotation of the consumer to buy a car in the past will be 7 to 10 years, and in recent years it's come to 3 to 4 years, and the car is become a big electronic products. Okay, every 2 years you are seeing a new technology, maybe bigger screens, maybe more AI functions, maybe there will be new components to be installed in the cabin and attract people to switch their old car to new products. And the government also creating a kind of the regulation sandbox to define use cases. Industry can really to use the modular-based platform and cross-function teams to do the things in parallel. And university is really can align with research, and they are bundled together, partner with the OEM together. So they're able to translate the new research output into industrialization kind of the products very quickly. Okay, and the management really to learn from here is the speed need to be designed from a country's perspective. It need to come from the governance. It need to be powered by the incentive. It also matter of the decision rights, decision structures, right? If every issue requires serious approval process across different kind of the departments, the things will not going to happen. Okay, so that come to my last pages. So I'm not really know about South Africa in depth, but I just to summarize what's my personal view that South Africa may able to so-called kind of the converge the lesson into a real plan from China, right? So first, China is not only winning through one national champion across everything. It's connect OEM, suppliers, technologies, companies, universities, infrastructure, kind of the providers, finance institutions, right? And also the local governments and the customers. So it's an ecosystem build up. And it's a kind of the titan, kind of the national and regional ecosystem around the existing and newly come in automotive basis. This is something South Africa maybe to learn, which is how really ecosystem can be incubated from existing basis and plus the future demand segmentations, right? And first action could be choose one or maybe 2 or 3 kind of a geography focused cluster and define a very clear specializations for each others. And for example, one cluster can focus on the vehicle and the components manufacturing, another one focus on the battery and charging, right? And definitely we should look into a cluster, how we're going to focus on software testing and the autonomous and the connectivities. Those things will require heavy localizations, right? Then second is really how to capture the capabilities. And capabilities is not only on the vehicle, it's also kind of technologies and platforms. China today is going very aggressively into global, and they actually produce the different way of partnerships, right? Not only just give you a production line, they're also very open for the technology collaborations. We are helping one of the China brand to resell their car IP on entire IP to India OEMs, and I think they are going to launch the final products in early of next year. That is one of the quickest way to capture capability. But once we have capability is how to really localize it, and how we're going to apply the local experiences, how we're going to make the local environment specific testing, and how we able to make the data access to be more local managed, right? But capability is not only means for South Africa that you develop only for a local market, and you are the entry point for the Africa, and how really you become a vital players for the automotive market for entire Africa. And even further, once you gain that capability, once specialized areas, you make it become a global value chain providers. Okay, and also speed as a emphasis for several times, right? Speed is something China already established its reputation. Speed is something for your market need to establish. In which way, I will not be the expert. We can share how China is going to have done those things, and which way you need to figure out from government, from the ecosystem integration, from the vertical integration for one companies to make one of the big levers to become your innovations, to gain market shares, to become a competitive for those kind of foreign OEM just produce the products overseas and sell into countries. So speed will be a policy choice for the government, for the companies, and for the ecosystems, right? Last one, but not least, is really the talent and the supply chain. If we really want to localize them, they need to be considered in an early stage. You need to really spend more than 4 years, right, to get a qualified talent out from university into market. You need to give them a practice time to learn into the real business. They're able to really gain the knowledge and the experiences, able to come out with a new way of doing works. Okay, supply chain is even the same. Which part need to be done in local? If we need the data expert, data companies, cloud service, digital players, user experience players, we need to give them the opportunities to grow their business, then to be integrated and contribute to the NEV market in South Africa and in the African market. So this will be one of the so-called kind of the learning point I can share with you. Okay, so that will be today's my sharing with you from China, and let's see whether we have a few questions.
Ming Chen, thank you very, very much for sharing those insights with the audience. I hope I speak collectively for everyone to say, I think you've blown our minds in terms of the possibilities when everything can come together. What's very clear is that it's not just one technology or one company alone that has produced the outcome that we're seeing from China right now. It's really a collective effort across multiple areas of the country. So incredible to see that scale and incredible to see the progress being made. We do have 1 or 2 questions, and maybe I'll just try to be selective with them. Just the first question is an interesting